Hey, happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope y'all are having a great day so far. Okay, so today we're gonna continue talking about Andrew Jackson, that controversial president, remember? He's on our $20 bill. So at the very least, you gotta know who he is so you know who you're spending. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about Jackson's ideas. We're gonna get some background on his ideas. So number one, Jackson's ideas. Okay, so Andrew Jackson becomes president in 1828. His first idea, he says, I want to extend suffrage to ordinary Americans. Now remember, what we read on Friday, ordinary means white men. Anybody else is outside of ordinary. So ordinary means people who look like Jackson. What Jackson wanted to do with suffrage was get rid of property qualifications. That means you don't have to own property to vote. But again, you still have to be a white male. No women, no minorities. Another thing that Jackson wanted to do was B. He wanted to reform the power of the elite in America. American politics back then were controlled by pretty much a select few families. For example, the Adams family. You had John Adams, who was president, his son, John Quincy Adams, who was president. Jackson didn't like that. He wanted his base of power to be expanded to the ordinary people. So let's stop there. We're going to analyze the first image we have on our notes. It says number one. Okay, so really briefly, I want to mention a quote that really captures Jackson's attitude towards being a leader and being president. Jackson said, I was not meant for the calm. I was meant for the storm. And I think what he meant by that was that he was a man of action. He was a man of controversy sometimes, and more importantly, he was a man of boldness. He was outspoken. He did things that he thought were right, and he often went against the public opinion or the opinion of most other leaders of our nation. We see a great example of that in number two, the National Bank. The National Bank. So, some background on the National Bank. A. The National Bank was created to handle all of the U.S.'s monetary affairs. It would print money, issue loans directly from the government, and basically make sure that the financial institutions of our country were in good working order. It sounds like a good idea, right? Well, and it worked pretty well for a while. However, Jackson, he disliked this national bank, aka the bus, the Bank of the U.S. He disliked this national bank for a lot of reasons, and he was valid in most of his reasons. There were five major reasons Jackson disliked the national bank. Number one, he said it concentrated too much money in too few hands. There were only 5 or 10 people in charge of the national bank, and it was in charge of the entire money supply for the U.S. The second problem, he thought the national bank made the rich people richer because only a select few control it. They got rich while everybody else didn't really benefit from it. Number three, he thought the national bank had too much power over members of Congress. He thought members of Congress were swayed by the power that this one central bank had, and it affected their voting and their political stances. The fourth reason he disliked the national bank, he thought the bank favored the northeast of our country, the big urban centers that depended on financial institutions. Cities like Boston, Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia. And he thought the bank favored those regions and left out, what regions? You got it, the South and the West. And finally, number five, and this kind of goes back to Jackson's desire to get rid of the elite. He thought the bank was controlled by a few rich families. The control was passed down from generation to generation, or from brother to brother. A few wealthy, politically powerful families. So, continuing on with number 2, Jackson dislikes this Bank of the U.S., so what does he do? He gets rid of it. Let's look at the cartoon, number 2, the second one, to see exactly how he gets rid of it. Okay, so again, Jackson, he was born for the storm. We're going to see this again in another one of his major policies. This policy is Indian removal. And we're going to examine Indian removal through the lens of one specific tribe that had a very interesting relationship with the United States. So first, let's talk about 3A, the Treaty of Hopewell. The Treaty of Hopewell was made in 1785 between the U.S. and the Cherokee Nation. The Cherokee were a large tribe of Native Americans who lived in the southern Appalachians and parts of Georgia. The Treaty of Hopewell said, basically, that, hey, we, the U.S., we recognize your right, Cherokees, to your own independent nation. It set the boundaries of that nation, and it said, okay, go have at it. This is your nation. We're not going to interfere with it. So that was what the Treaty of Hopewell said. Now, the problem is American settlers, they want that Cherokee land for lots of reasons. First of all, it's good land. It's good farming land. So we see in the early 1800s, we start to see a change of policy. And you know what? Remember that Jackson inauguration? Guess what one of his major programs was that he spoke about during his inauguration? He got up there, took the oath of office, and he said, I think one of the major policies of our government should be Indian removal. We should remove Indians from the land we want. And Congress went along with that. In 1830, they passed the Indian Removal Act. So 1830, U.S. Congress passes this act that says we're going to relocate all Indians who are living east of the Mississippi. We're going to move them west of the Mississippi because we want that rich eastern farmland. And gold had also just been discovered on that Cherokee land in Georgia. So of course, now all these settlers want to get their piece of gold. So they go to Georgia and just start taking Cherokee land. Well, the Cherokees, they're intelligent people. They've adopted many of the ways of white society. We'll read about that later. But they fight back. And they don't fight back violently. They do it in a very shrewd political way. They go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court rules in their favor. So, the final thing I want to look at is the last cartoon, number 4. Now, the general sense we get of America back then is it was Americans versus Native Americans. However, many people in America recognized the hypocrisy of the government in taking Cherokee lands, and they spoke out about it. So let's look at cartoon number 4. Okay, so now that we've talked about Jackson's actions in office, 2 of his major policies, the National Bank, how he acted towards it, Indian removal, how he acted towards the Cherokee, I want us to move to that 5th box. It's blank. And it says Jackson's America. Jackson, I think, had a very specific image of what America should be, who the government should serve. And I'll leave you with this quote. In 1832, when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Cherokee Nation, they said, hey, the Cherokee, they get to keep their lands. This is what Andrew Jackson said. He said, well, John Marshall, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, he has made his decision. Now, let him enforce it.